This is a very brutal world. A world where you're judged on how you look like, you're judged on how much money you got, you're judged on your connections, you're judged on what you wear, you're judged on so many different things on so many different levels. And it's really annoying when you think about it because so many people in this world are just evil, sadistic, twisted bastards. And so many people in this world, they're so judgmental. They don't know what you've been through. They don't care what you've been through. And they certainly don't care about you. They care about their own self. They care about their own selfish self-interest. And they just don't give a damn. And a lot of men in this world are figuring it out. They're figuring out that just building something up for yourself, building something up that you're going to enjoy and enjoying your time, being alone, and maybe not just chasing girls all the time. Even though deep down inside, of course you want a girl in your life. I mean, who doesn't want to have a cute girl in their life? But the problem is this. If you weren't able to get a beautiful girl in your life when you were young, when you were in your prime years, your prime youthfulness, and you had all time ahead of you, and you weren't able to find a partner then, the chances of you finding a partner after the age of 25, 28, 31, and up, it goes down drastically. We live in a world where things compound. Negative events compound, positive events compound, and they compound and they either lift you up or they break you down. And the women of today, oh my God, especially Western women, they're very entitled, and they demand so much from regular everyday men. If you're not some famous rapper, some superstar ball player, you're not Tyrone or Chad, they're not going to even look your way. And even if they do look your way, they're going to look your way and find a way to manipulate you, find a way to psychologically attack you, and find a way to make you feel beneath them. And it's brutal because a lot of us deep down inside, we do want a good girl in our life. A good girl in your life helps a man mentally. It helps a man emotionally. It helps a man build and create. When you have a girl in your life, giving you some of that coochie and booty, giving you some high fellatio with that ratio, and just looking sexy in her little dress. She got a little booty shorts on with a white tee. You see her in that thong. You see all that sexy shit. That inspires a man. That makes a man happy. That makes a man want to grind. That makes a man want to just do amazing things. But when you don't have that, when you got to wake up every single day, go to work, go to your job, get cussed out by your boss, get, annoyed by your coworkers, get annoyed by this life. You hear, the country that you're in is invading other countries and causing, basically preliminary events before World War III. And then you got to deal with that. You got to deal with inflation. You got to deal with, sexual frustration without having that sexual alleviation. You got to deal with all types of crap, and it breaks your mind over time. But if you weren't able to get a girl in your prime of youth, there's no way in hell you're going to stand a chance as you get older because you need experience. You see, when you're with a girl, when you're with a woman or whatever, they're going to test you in small little ways to see if you're even worthy of them. They're going to test you because Chad and Tyrone, they don't really get tested. They just get the girls undressed, and point blank period. But when you're a regular guy, they're going to put you through the shit test. They're going to try their best to see what they can get from you. They're going to try their best to try to manipulate you. And it sucks because when you're a guy in our position, you may not have that much positive experiences with females like that. You may have got lucky once or twice or never at all. But you don't get it frequently, you don't get it consistently, and that kind of breaks down your confidence over time. I think people underestimate the power of sexual conquest, the power of sexual power. I mean, there is a thing called sex magic, where people utilize the frequencies and energies of sexual promiscuity, and they're able to manipulate certain things in this dimension, if you will. But it's not our fault. We didn't create ourselves. I didn't create my skin color configuration. I didn't create the way that I looked. You think I would pick something that's going to make me a target? If I had a choice to pick how I look like, do you think I'll pick something that's going to make my life harder, make people automatically, dislike me as soon as they see me? Why would I do that? Why would I want to cause problems just because of my presence? Like, why would I want to do that? That's not something that I would have ever picked. That's not something that I would have ever wanted. Why would a loving, caring God create you to be a certain way where you're ugly? You're not handsome. You're in a poverty position, but you have talent that can gain you some ascension. But this God doesn't put you around the right people to actually help you. Why? Why would you continue to worship something like that? And let me ask you this for some of the Bible dupes out there, if God lost his power today, if Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, lost his power today, would you still worship him? If he didn't have the power to send you to hell, if he didn't have the power to make you suffer and bring curses upon you, would you still serve him? Imagine if God lost his power, and just became a regular human being. Do you know how many angels or archons would start fighting each other to try to claim his throne and claim his space? You know how many beings would try to attack him because he no longer holds that authority? People say they love God or they love the demiurge, but they don't really love this God. How you can tell is look at their actions. When people get really sick and they're religious, they go to the hospital. They get pills. They get medication. They don't sit there and pray in their room all day and hopefully God just heals them because they know God's not going to just magically heal them. This is because this is the demiurge. It wants you to suffer. It wants you to go through pain. It wants you to be alone with no woman in your life. It wants you to be miserable. That's why you're miserable. That's why this world is miserable. That's why there's always drama and problems in the world. These entities feed off negative energy frequency. They feed off of us. They feed off our pain. Now, imagine if this God didn't have any power and he was just a regular, weak little human, Do you think these other beings will listen to him? Do you think you will listen to him? Do you think you'll be trying to quote unquote love this God? The only reason you love this God is because you're scared of going to hell. You want to go to some heaven that's made by a being that made your life a living hell. It makes no sense to me. A true loving and caring being is not going to make people that are ugly. It's not going to make men who are going to be alone their whole lives and miss out on their prime. You only get one time to be a teenager, one time to be in your early 20s, one time to be in your early 30s, Then after 35, 36, 37, it goes downhill from there. If you haven't found the wife by 40, it's over for you. When you get 40 years old or in your mid 30s and you still haven't had a wife, you don't have a life, you don't have kids, you don't have a house, you don't have a firm stability on economics, the life is going to go downhill if you don't have any type of talents, hidden attributes, and you have the will and determination to make something out of yourself with entrepreneurship. Everybody goes to school, but not everybody becomes a millionaire. Everybody starts a business, but not everybody becomes a multimillionaire as well. But you might as well take that gamble than waking up and wage slaving. But of course, we all have to do that because that's the world we live in. What God would design a prison where he puts your soul inside of a body that's weak, a body that gets sick? You got to use the bathroom. You got to drink water. You got to eat food. And then once you eat food, you get full, you get satisfied. And a couple of hours later, you're hungry again. You drink water and a couple of hours later, you're thirsty again. It's like it's a never ending cycle of trying to keep yourself alive. And then in the end of it all, you're just going to pass away anyway. All the degrees you have, all the times of going to school, all the times of, getting humiliated, getting teased, getting abused mentally, physically, and psychologically by these evil entities. At the end of the day, you're just going to pass away anyway. Everything that you've ever done, everything that you ever loved, everything that you ever dreamed is going to be gone into the ether and gone into the void forever. This is why when you're young, you have to get that girl in your life. You got to get those experiences when you're young. If you were a young guy and you didn't have girls taking off their panties or throwing their panties at you, and she's telling you to come over, when her mom and dad go out to visit their freaking grandmother or go out to a vacation or some business trip, and she tells you to come over on Friday night or Saturday morning or Saturday night, and takes her panties off for you. You see that dress, she lifts her little skirt up and you pull them panties down and pull them to the side and put your mouth between it and you get it popping. You know what I mean? And start licking and dipping and you pull out your junk and she starts, doing all that. And like if you don't have those experiences when you're young, you think you want to have them in your 30s, when you're in your mid 20s? By then you got to escort max. But what's the point? Like that takes away a man's confidence as well. When you have to pay a woman to be in your presence, you have to pay a woman for the utilization of her body. When most guys like Chad and Tyrone, Chad just driving around, boom, 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 boom. Or Chad and Tyrone, boom, 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 driving around in the Dodge Camaro or a big Ford F-150, boom, 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 boom. Hey Chelsea, oh my God, hey Chad, hey Tyrone, oh yeah, you guys want to hang out? I brought my girlfriends, Then the next thing you know, they're having a cocktail party, with the cocks and the tails and the drinks and the margaritas. You know what I'm talking about. And meanwhile, you're sitting there playing Fortnite at 2:30 a.m. on a Friday night. That's how you know it's over. Sitting there watching Rehab Room. You're watching DBDR. You're watching Savvy Guy. You're watching all the BP legends. And you're sitting there like, damn, these people speak so much truth. And it's like, that's how you know it's over. When it's like 2:30 a.m., you're playing Fortnite, you're playing some video game, and really you just want to play a video game with a female at least, they have that play a video game with her personally and get it popping, pennies dropping, yeah. But the problem is you're not gonna have that, and we don't have the looks, and especially the skin color configuration that's in relation to your physique, meaning that when Chelsea says she likes Tyrone, she's not talking about the black guy who's an accountant, the black guy who's a regular guy that got his degree. No. She's talking about she's talking about them young ninjas. Yeah, I didn't mean with the Glock that's making it pop on the block, with the Draco, letting it bite like a Mako. She's talking about that, They coming down bumping their loud music, boom, 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 boom. I hate that shit sometimes. You hear that loud ass music from a distance. I love music, but sometimes it's just too loud. And you got them ninjas, they be bumping that music 2:30, 3:30 in the morning, and you see some pretty girl. It's like this girl got blue eyes, blonde hair. I'm like, I know damn well your father would be absolutely, absolutely angry if you found out what you were doing with Tyrone late at night. And then meanwhile, you have a guy named, let's say, you have a guy named Charlie. You know what I mean? And he's been liking Chelsea forever. He's been sending her little flowers and gifts and stuff like. She's just been ignoring them. He's like, hey, Chelsea, what are you doing tonight? It's Saturday night. You want to hang out? And she just ignores his text message, and then let's say like he tries to call her or text her, and then like in the middle of her getting fellatio with a high ratio to Tyrone or Chad, he gets to hear it. He hears Chelsea moaning, and you know what I mean? He's like, damn. He's like, Chelsea. Chelsea, what's going on? Hello? She's like, oh shit. And she turns the phone off. That's brutal, man. That's brutal. That's the life when you're like sub 5, when you're sub 8, when you're sub 7. It's absolutely a brutal life, man. When you're not one of the chosen guys, when you're not one of the people that have the looks, life gets brutal. Point blank, period. Like, this is not a good life if you're somebody that's in poverty, when you're somebody that's not lucky with the ladies. This world will break you down. And what makes it worse is when you have maybe your family members, or you have a mom, you have a dad, you have a distant uncle, and they're questioning you like, how come you're not married yet? How come you don't have this yet? How come you don't have that? Well, are you going to give me the money? Are you going to give me the money to buy a car? Are you going to give me the money to buy a house so I can attract this female? And then you got to be careful with that, because if you mess with a female that only mess with you because of your materialistic items, and she doesn't really like you, she's going to end up cheating on you. You see, attraction is physical. A female knows within the first seconds, and as a man within the first few seconds, if you want to be able to screw that person. It's just, attraction is natural. You can tell when somebody's beautiful, and you can tell when they're not just by looking at them. And when you're somebody that your whole life you've been kind of desolated, you've been segregated, you've been thrown to oblivion pretty much, you work a job you don't like. I think that's where a lot of misery comes from, where you work at. These jobs are miserable. These jobs are not conducive to your mental health. These jobs are designed to break you. If you're a creative, innovative person, if you're somebody that likes making things and being creative and trying to make money doing your own thing, then working a 9 to 5 is going to break your mind. And that's going to break your confidence. And the female is going to see through that and be like, okay, so where do you work at? I work at Amazon. It's like, damn, yeah. Meanwhile, she's talking to a Chad and Tyrone. He's an aspiring rapper. She's talking to somebody who's in the NFL, or he's going to get into the NFL. He's one of them big, giant, cornbread ninjas, them big, giant ninjas. You already know. This guy, he's on his way. He's on his way to greatness. Meanwhile, you're on your way to the next Xbox game. You're on your way to the next prawn site. You know what I mean? You're on your way. You get excited for the new Call of Duty, which is the same crap every year. Meanwhile, He gets excited to tear her nanny up and he goes and got 10 more girls like that. It's brutal, man. This is not right. This is why I'm saying this world is designed for your pain. There's no way in hell that you should be in a position where you live in a first world country where there's millions and millions of girls out there, yet you're alone and trapped in your room. Or if you're not trapped, you have a 9 to 5 job. You wake up, go to your job, and come straight home, pay your bills, and you're trapped because you work your job because you have to work it to pay the bills. But the job that you're working is not enough for you to actually thrive and survive. The jobs are not designed for you to be a millionaire. They're not designed for you to have a lot of money. They're designed for you to be trapped. And then that puts you in a mindset of survival when your only focus is food and a shelter, like an animal. And when your only focus is food and shelter, no woman will be attracted to that. Women like excitement. Women like fun. Women like adventure. They don't like no boring guy. If you're a boring guy, my name's Charles, and I'm going to read my books on diagnostics and data analyzation platforms. It's like in formulated codes. It's like she don't want to hear that. She want to be with Chad and Tyrone. Chad does whatever he wants. He smokes weed at the beach. Tyrone, is hanging with his thugs and his other ninjas, and they gang banging, slanging, and hanging, and she's with them. And she's a good girl. She comes from the suburbs. Her bloodline comes from Germany or Austria. Meanwhile, she's partying with some, some guy that has a stronger skin color configuration than hers. That's not really viable to her family's blood lineage. And it's why certain people feel like they're being attacked, which is interesting because they feel like certain demographics, are being chosen because they've been upheld as the bad boy, upheld as the bad guy. The media painted certain people as a bad guy. And we already know girls like the bad guys. That's just the truth. It's just the rule. Girls like the bad guys. They don't like the good guys. Most women, if they had a chance, they're going to go for the bad guy. They're not going to go for the good guy. You ever heard of that saying, nice guys finish last? Well, it's absolutely true.